The Tamer is repulsive. Level 15. The War Under the Mountains. 3.
Old Ironside slowly got to its feet with jittery movements. Rather than engaging the rattan mech in front of him, he took a kneeling position and a compartment in his back opened up, allowing a glowing blue canister to emerge. The glass of the canister fractured and then shattered, and a blue substance flowed out and covered Old Ironsides. If Grima had attacked during this time, she may have been able to deal a fatal blow to the mechanical defender of dwarven kind, but she hesitated, thinking this was a self-defense maneuver. The solution seeped into every crevice of the six-armed super-sized Terminator before slowly fading away. When the glowing blue gel covering the colossal ottoman finally vanished, Grima cursed her own inaction. The blue gel had completely repaired Old Ironside, even going so far as to replace the ruined runes and enchantments that had been worn away by the corrosive industrial waste. Old Ironsides rose to his feet as the shattered canister fell off his back and the hat sealed up. The two giant killer death machines squared off, both of them now opening at 100% efficiency. From deep in the darkness, the large bell tolled another 5 times, followed by a collection of smaller bells, signaling to the rest of Under Empire's forces that they should advance. Another 80,000 rattan slaves rushed out of shadows just as Grima and Old Ironsides began to charge each other. As the two closed the distance, Grima's Ratbot's chest opened up and launched several rockets at Old Ironsides. But now, the fully repaired murder machine easily dodged them. To respond to Ratbot's attack, Old Ironsides swung his enchanted sword at the foe, unleashing blasts of magical power in Grima's direction. Heedless to the tide of bodies around her, Grima executed a number of sliding dodges, aided by jet engine thrusters, sending blood and gore flying at Ratbot ran over the rattan slaves. While Old Ironside had dodged the initial barrage of rockets, they continued onwards and impacted the dwarven ramparts, causing another of the already weakened sections of the wall to collapse under its own weight. Despite the danger that now faced the dwarves, Old Ironside was too focused on completing his one primary objective to notice King Glider Ironheart's and Knife's repeated blowing of the horn of command. One of the 5 claw paws was in front of him. He had no choice but to obey the final commands of his creators over the whining of one of their imperfect genetic derivatives. Ratbot continued to use its jet boosters to play a keep away from Ironsides, firing rockets and Gatling guns at the dwarven colossal from farther away than the Old Ironside's own range option could reach. From Ratbot's hindquarters emerged a turret that would not be out of place on a warship. This turret took place at Old Ironsides, who quickly focused all excess power to his frontal shields. This slowed his movements to a crawl, something Grima was hoping to happen. The single barrel of the turret began to fizzle and spark with emerald lightning that seemed to travel down the length of the weapon. The sound of machinery shifting into action preceded a large clacking sound, and finally,
Kaboom!
Ratbot trembled with the recoil of the shot that had been fired at seemingly the same time that the Old Ironside was sent reeling, his shield having not only overloaded, but also having failed entirely. Only due to absolute dumb luck had Old Ironside managed to withstand the impact of the rattan Mad Genius prototype railgun, and only dumb luck had kept Grima from being able to store more than one round in her creation. As the ancient 6-armed automata rose to his feet, one of his arms hung limply at his side, hanging on by only a few cables, while another jet fell off altogether as Old Ironside tried to take a battle stance. Declaration: it will take more than that to destroy me. By the will of the Makers, you and all your kind will be terminated. Resistance is futile. You will be eradicated. Exterminate! Exterminate! Grima's mad laughter was amplified from the voice projector built into Ratbot, allowing her to respond to her foe verbally, even as she made vulgar gestures towards him through her creation. Your words bold indeed they are, yes, yes. Yet although foolish naive they are. Lack the power strength to truly fight my creation, you do. When you cannot? No, no. Delay the inevitable, all you are able to do, that is. So struggle fight all you like. Makes my time testing this weapon toy more enjoyable, it does. Looking forward to taking your remains apart, I am. Yes, yes. There was but one solace for the dwarven defenders, that being the old Ironside's fight with the massive centaur rat mech was causing most of the Rattan forces to be dead long before they could make into the range of the Motar's cannons or even crossbows and rifles. The king kept blowing into the horn of command, but old Ironsides refused to respond. But in the defender's mind, that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. If those two giant killer machines fought it out in front of the walls, sure, they could try and attack the Rattan mech themselves, but the missed shots from the vermin machine would do far more damage than it already had done. The defenders could barely make out what was going on in the shadows beyond the line of sight. If only the flash of magic and technology illuminating the darkness, and only for brief moments at a time. The thunderous roar from earlier must have been a Rattan superweapon. A thought that was certainly true, seeing as the 50-meter tall gate now had a huge hole in it from where the superweapon deflected off Old Ironsides and slammed into the door. Old Ironside was still being cheered on by the defenders despite being forced to deal with the onrushing tide of many rat people. Not that their cheering could even be heard through the snarling, hissing explosions and more that rang out through the cavern. 4 of his arms were now either inoperable or were completely destroyed. Still, he had no other option than to attack. The regenerative neo-metal gel had been used up, so there was no way to repair him. Even if he won against the foes in front of him, he would be forever crippled, as the modern dwarves lacked the means to undo the damage he had sustained. There was only one other option, a final solution, if ever there was one. Diverting all of his power away from every other system save to his ability to stand, Old Ironside began to overload his power core. Numerous warnings blared out in the mechanical mind as he pushed more and more power into a single spot. As his detection system went down one by one, his world went black. Finally, his legs gave out and began to slump to the floor. Death comes for all. May none find me wanting. The core of Old Ironside had reached its limits and was about to explode with enough force to collapse the entire mountain above it. Warning! Core critical failure in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There was no explosion, only the sounds of metal being torn to shreds as Grima's ratbot shoved its superheated chainsaw-tipped warglaive through Old Ironside's chest in the right place. Old Ironside's processors had been severed from the core and were now unable to keep said core from entering safe mode. The air rippled wildly as the core dump commenced, with the air around the two mech superheating to nearly 3 times the boiling point of water. Grima's mech didn't stop simply cutting off Old Ironside from his limbs and core, and with a twist and yank, Ratbot ripped the ancient death machine's head off to the sound of the tearing metal and sparkling cables. Advancing past the darkness beyond the dwarves' line of sight, Grima held aloft the head of the great defender of the dwarves before dropping it to the ground and crushing it beneath one of Ratbot's massive feet. A massive blow to the morale of the dwarves had been struck, and the Rattan were poised to capitalize on it.